memories, yeah. Those nights that we forget, I will remember best. Drive off the map into the realm of the stars. Didn't need a war, now this one is ours. Smile along until the coast is clear. Like anything that you will learn to fear. Let it play in the background, tune up the sound. Didn't need a war, we got one now. We'll write the chords as they repeat for years. We may be beyond something here. The logic from before. Inside to see for drifting like proper castaways. Didn't need a war to cheer, I'd say. So smile big until it's thrown us clear. We might be beyond the something here. The logic from before. Now we're inside to see for. And then the surprise knock on your door. Surprise knock on your door. Surprise knock on your door. Drive off the map and take a long way round. Didn't know the score, we knew we were down. It won't be long until we grind the gears. But carry on, we're on to something here. The logic's from before. Now we're inside to see for. And then the surprise knock on your door. Surprise knock on your door. The surprise knock on your door. Drive up the map till the horizon bleeds. Didn't need a war, we got one sea. We had it wrong when it was all so clear. We might be beyond to something here. Drifting like proper castaways. Didn't need a war to cheer, I'd say. So smile big until it's thrown us clear. We might be beyond to something here. And then the surprise knock on your door. The surprise knock on your door. The surprise knock on your door. The surprise knock on your door.
You've got a hollow soul, I feel the love is missing. The color in your eyes is something I've been wishing. With a burden on my back, holding on to what we had. So now I'm dancing in an empty room. Dancing. Dancing. Dancing.
All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, citizens of Tampa and board members. The Community Redevelopment Agency first meeting of the month of the year, January 21st, 2021, will now come to order. This morning, our invocation will be led by my good friend and former coaching buddy, Pastor Kenneth Leon Modrow. He is a youth pastor of the General Assembly Church of Firstborn. He is also a husband, father, mentor, retired educator of 35 years, and coach. As president of Sports Kids Underwood Foundation, his personal vision is to inspire and empower individuals to achieve their goals and dreams. Pastor Mojo loves God, loves his family, and loves his community. I welcome Pastor Mojo to the podium.
Good morning. Let us pray. Lord God Almighty, we thank you for this day you blessed us to see. Thank you for this city council. Thank you for Tampa Bay, the state, the United States. We ask your blessings will be upon us and that as we travel to our destinations that we'll be safe. We thank you for a blessed and productive meeting today. In your name we pray. Amen.
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 I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Vieira,
Mr. Vieira called me. He is having a little difficulty with his vehicle this morning, but he is on his way.
Dingfelder, Maniscalco,
Here.
Carlson,
Here.
Citro,
Here.
Miranda,
Mr. Miranda is a little ill this morning, will not be with us.
and Goods.
Here.
And there's a full quorum present.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. Massey, public comment, sir.
Yes, sir. This meeting of the City of Tampa Community Development Agency is being held during the COVID-19 state of emergency. It's a hybrid meeting, meaning that it's conducted live with in-person quorum present with the option of remote participation using what is referred to by the state of Florida as communication media technology. The meetings are held in accordance with the amended restated emergency rules of procedure as adopted by the CRA last month, resolution number 2020-2022. The public and the citizens of the city of Tampa are able to watch, listen, or view this meeting on cable TV, Spectrum Channel 640 or Frontier Channel 15, or via the internet, www.tampa.gov/listen-stream. There are various options of participation allowed, obviously in person at the convention center, also via the internet or web, by email, by mail, by voicemail, or by speaking remotely during public comment or during the public hearing, remotely using CMT or participating using CMT at the kiosk at the Tampa Convention Center. Public comment is generally limited to 3 minutes, subject to the chair and the board's discretion. And that, in sum, is our rules regarding public comment.
Thank you, Mr. Massey. Do we have anybody for public comment this morning?
There's no registered speakers, and we did not receive any recorded voicemail.
Anybody in the public for public comment? Seeing none, we'll move right along. Staff reports.
Before we go into staff reports, I did want to mention a couple of minor changes to the agenda. One, relative to item 7, you have on your table, and I've given to the clerk, a substitute agreement. The agreement that was put into SIRE did not include Exhibit A. This includes Exhibit A. That is the only change. But if you do choose to move this resolution, I would ask that you move the substitute agreement that's on your desk and it's with the CRA secretary. And I believe Ms. Van Loan will speak to this, but item 8, I believe you actually approved at your last meeting, so that does not need to be approved at this meeting. Is that correct, Michelle?
Yes, that is correct. We addressed it as a walk-in approval at the December 10th CRA board meeting.
So I would ask that you approve the agenda with these those 2 modifications, if you would. So, thank you.
Move to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Maniscalco move the agenda. Second by Mr. Carlson. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed. With no opposition. Staff reports.
Good morning, Chair and CRA board members. We'll start our morning with Mr. Thomas Murphy from the Central Park CRA as our community speaker this morning.
Central Park, CRA, primarily the urban garden, the Meacham Urban Garden. Since the last time I was here in October, there's been a lot of, I don't know if my slides are up. There's been a lot of progress. One of the biggest hurdles that they've had to work with was digging up a lot of cement from the site that was there before. So they've been kind of held back a few months on that, but they are at about a 95% capacity for all of their crops that are there, so that's exciting. It's been, they asked for a little bit of backstory on that. I guess that THA and the school board had proposed an idea for this urban garden at that site. The three farmers, Travis, Kristen, and Joe, had all gotten together and put their bid in for this. They started this actually a few years ago, but COVID, the permitting, lots of roadblocks, but we are actually almost there. They're looking to do a February 9th grand opening, inviting all of the city council members to come. I believe Mayor Castor is going to be there as well, so it's going to be exciting to come down and see it. All of these greenhouses that you see in these pictures right here are all brand new. They actually had to have a special, no one in town had ever really had to do permitting for greenhouses in a downtown urban core, so that was a little bit of a learning lesson for them as well. This picture you're seeing right here is all strawberries they have planted, so we do have a little bit of a slower season right now, but they're going to be really looking to pick up in October. Tons of different kinds of produce: tomatoes, lettuce, onions, cabbage, list goes on. Our CAC had actually helped them with getting funding for their shelter, basically. So it's going to be a large building that has one side for their vegetable and food prep, washing the vegetables, things along those lines. The other side is going to be a community store, so the public will be able to come in and buy the fresh organic produce that's grown on this site, as well as another farm that's in the area, all organic as well. There was a third farm that they had planned to get some different produce, but some things didn't work out with that. So it's a little tight now with the way the produce is going, because the way that they do their for-profit is through a card that members can purchase, almost like a debit card, I guess. You put $250 on it, then you get first priority pick of the vegetables as they come up. You can order them once a week online and then come in and pick them up on Saturdays. But they are also going to have a store there. So really hoping to get the community engaged with that. I know that there's tons of people that walk by all the time and are peeking in to look and see what's going on. One of the great programs they're going to offer as well, let me get the name on it there, is the Fresh Access Bucks program. So SNAP and EBT will double its value at this location, so I think that's something that's nice as well. But there's a lot that's going on in Central Park. I don't know if anyone's taken a drive down there lately, but there's so many new builds going on down there. I think Valerie's going to go over a few of those more specific. But it's crazy. It's great. I'm excited. I think it's awesome. I think that for a long time this was kind of a desert after all of the housing was torn down, the school was torn down, and it's just kind of not really been a destination for a while, and now it's really picking up, and it's really exciting to see. I have photos in here of, the basketball courts being used more. There's families down there having picnics. 2 years ago when I would walk through, you didn't really see that as much, and so that's really exciting, and I see a lot more kids are down there. So it's really nice, and I have good communication with the owner of the B-Snip Barbershop. His business is down there, but unfortunately there's not a lot of filled commercial space at the Central Park Encore Ella buildings. So that'll hopefully be something that'll pick up in the new year as well. But here's an example right there in the corner of Central, and I believe that's on Harrison, one of the new builds as well. And then they're still in the works for putting a grocery store down there, from my understanding. I don't know exactly what kind of grocery store. I know we have two Publix down in Channelside, which is right across the railroad tracks, but I think what they're pushing for is maybe something that's going to be a little bit more of affordable grocery, maybe like an Aldi or something along those lines, because I know that that's been a lot of feedback from the community down there, that they really are looking to have a grocery store. But it's a great little area that, like I said, I think has a lot of history that hasn't been told for a long time, and I really would like to be a voice to help a lot of the community down there have their story told, because like I said, it's crazy doing a lot of the research on there and seeing how that was a downtown area at one time. There was tons of black-owned businesses in the community that had really built itself up, and unfortunately was torn down with I-4, 275, all of those. And it's heartbreaking to me, but the past is the past, and hopefully we can work with the city to make this a destination spot again. I took some pictures right at there. I know that's in the downtown Sierra, the Jackson House, but I really would like to be an advocate and really try to get the city to really pick up on this and a lot of the black culture that's down there. You know, we have a few of the different monuments that speak about the Cotton Club and the streets that were down there at one time, but I don't feel like that's enough. I feel like that's just a small portion of that. So I think with the reconstruction of the Jackson House, getting, you know, more community members or more people to come down to the Central Park Community Garden, as things start coming up more and more, it's going to be a destination because it's a fantastic location. We're right there at the peak of the downtown CRA, Channel Side, Ybor. Daryl Shaw just releasing his proposed plans for the Tampa Park Apartments, which is a huge portion of this CRA, is going to be really exciting to see what becomes with that.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that there was some, did anyone have any questions regarding
Councilor
anything?
Yaco, recognized.
This is really wonderful. It's exciting to see. And thank you all, everybody that's taken part in bringing this to fruition because it's beneficial to the community, just as you explained. However, it's just amazing that our predecessors wipe out an entire neighborhood and we're basically starting from scratch. It's not my fault or your fault. I mean, we were born after the fact, but the Jackson House, I mean, that's one of the few structures that stands. Then you have the church that was recently restored. I think it appeared in one of the images there in the corner, but everything else is new. But I mean, you know, the leadership before us half a century ago just wiped everything out. And I know you mentioned the interstate coming through and whatnot, but the interstate is blocks up, and you see like Perry Harvey Park, it's a big piece of land, but that was all, imagine a black Ybor City. That's how I describe it. You know, brick buildings and bustling businesses. And I understand that we had riots in '67. And, you know, I talked to the mayor from the 1960s, from that era, and I said, how can you just wipe out a whole area? You know, he was there when the riots were happening or right after, and he said they wanted to sell. They wanted to sell. People were selling off their properties, but it's like something that a gentleman told me, and who passed away last year, and he said, he was from Ybor City, and he said, you know, we came back to Ybor City years later, and we asked, well, what happened? This is before, you know, everything is happening in Ybor now. And he said, we happened. After World War II, we came back and we wanted better. So we moved out of the old neighborhood and we went out to other parts of the city. And then 50 years later, we came back and we said, well, what happened? You know, when people don't, how should I put it, focus on preserving their neighborhood, things like that happen. Thankfully, Ybor City, although much was demolished, much still exists today, but in terms of the Central Avenue Business District and this whole Central Park area, it was wiped off. However, the positive is what you're doing and what everybody's doing now is you're building a live, work, play, sustainable community. You're going back to those roots where you're benefiting the community. You're offering amenities, whether it's the Publix that's nearby, whether it's the garden that you're showing. At least I think we're learning from our past mistakes and focusing on something sustainable that will last generations and benefit generations. Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you, and I agree 100%. I think one of the big issues with Central Park is you look around and you see, you know, at one time we know Channel Side was warehouses. Now that's like a small New York City. You know, downtown was a ghost town. Now downtown is great. Tampa Park Apartments are going to be gone. Ybor. We're in that location where we're looking around and seeing everyone around us booming, and Central Park is still just kind of, it's not really a known area, and there's really not a lot of coverage of what's going on down there. So I really want to be a voice for that and inform you guys on what's going on down there and have you guys take a time to take a walk down there. Don't drive down there, take a walk down there because you really absorb so much more when you look around and you see these buildings. And I'm sure that you guys probably have, if any of you that have lived here that knew about that, Harlem of the South basically when Central Park was down there, and it breaks my heart, it really does, to see that happen because like Councilman said here, you know, it's like, imagine tearing down all of Ybor City. I just don't see how that happened, and so I would really like, there's, you know, even a couple small homes that are still on Scott Street that I was explaining to Valerie, I would love if the city could somehow incorporate those and make it a museum, almost like the homes are in Ybor City, where they show how the cigar rollers live. This is a huge part of Tampa history. You know, this was a big part of what built Tampa, and it's, two of those homes are still existing, and I can see somebody buying them and tearing them down. That's another part of history that would be gone. So I really just am trying to advocate for everybody to preserve as much as we can about Central Park.
Ms. Dingfeld, you're recognized.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So I used to be a member of the Sweetwater community garden over there in Town and Country. And I love community gardens. They're just, there's such good spirit involved in them. I'm so happy you're doing it, and especially in the location that you are. Do you have a chance to go to Sweetwater?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm familiar, correct.
Because, and I haven't been there in a couple of years, but we used to have, on Sundays, we used to have not only the food sharing, but also music and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's in your plans, but just that whole community spirit of, just getting people involved and like you say, creating a focal place and healthy living, and, I think it's fantastic what you're doing. So.
Yeah, to pick up or to follow up on what you had said, one of the issues that they had with someone else who had proposed an idea for the community garden was because it is a school board owned in Tampa, or because the school board does own it, we couldn't have liquor or alcohol, and I know that somebody else had wanted to do like dinners with wine, so that would be the only thing. But music, I agree 100%, having something to incorporate that.
Yeah, we used to just have afternoon folk music, and there wasn't any liquor involved.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, it was very, very family-oriented. Fantastic. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank
Mr.
you.
Carlson, you recognized.
No, I think Citro was first.
Mr. Carlson, please go ahead.
I know you said that Jackson House is not maybe in your district, but I thank you for mentioning it. One thing I want to say that we haven't said in a while is that City Council saved the Jackson House several years ago. It was slated for demolition, and I think the only one of us who was on the board then was Guido, and Miranda and Vieira also were on then. But Linda Salsenik came before City Council and pleaded with City Council to stop the execution of the Jackson House, and it worked. And so thank you to the prior City Council. But the reason why I bring this up also is that I talked to Christina Barker and also the History Center, and I know a couple of you all took tours of the Jackson House. There will be a time in the next few months when they've got to peel apart the whole building. The USF has X-rayed it or laser scanned it, and they've got to take the whole thing apart and then mark every piece of it and then put new pieces in for the ones that have to be replaced. But the point that they were making is there will be a time when the Jackson House is not there. There's a lot of questions right now, and Christina is out there actively trying to respond to them, but a lot of people are wondering, is anything happening? And it is, but at some point, the Jackson House won't be there maybe for a few months. And so I think we all need to be, and the community needs to be part of that education process to make sure the community knows that the fact that it's not there is a good thing, because it will come back in a better form or a renovated form. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Citro, you're recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I love the idea of all the rebuilding, the community gardens. We talk about the demise of Ybor City being tied into the interstate coming through. But what also hurt Ybor City was the automation of the cigar factories. And when work is not in the community cannot thrive and grow. What type of employment, what type of jobs, what type of careers is this area hoping to get so that people can live, work, and play in the same area? Do you have any comments? Do you have any ideas, any thoughts? Does the community have any thoughts?
That's a great question, and yes, I think one would be the grocery store. Obviously, that would definitely create employment there. But I've kind of run into a roadblock because I've met with Housing Authority and asked about why so many of these spaces that are commercial are vacant down there, and they have proposed plans to have a movie theater down there and things along those lines, but they just haven't come to fruition. But yeah, I don't really know the answer to that question right now as far as what would be a good work play. I talk with a lot of community members down there, and I'm trying to kind of get that ball rolling and get some suggestions from them as well.
There's thoughts of the tech companies coming in, and they can teach young Americans how to do coding.
Yeah.
Which is wonderful work. You spend 6, 8, 10 months learning how to code, and you could walk out and earn $70,000, $80,000 a year.
Correct, and I believe that there's a building, I think that might be named after a Greco, that's up on 7th, that I think maybe the Housing Authority had just built, that before COVID had really hit. They were talking about incorporating members of the community to go up there and do a training program, more so like restaurant, maybe back of the house food prep or things along those lines, and then ultimately getting them to get job placement in Ybor City. So we kind of keep everyone in that same community. So you can go to from Central Park up there, get your training, and then be placed in a job placement at maybe one of the restaurants in Ybor.
Fantastic. We need all the pieces of the puzzle to make sure it's complete.
100%.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome, Mr. Citro. For me, I just want to make sure that we keep that community as a mixed level, that we're not forcing people out. People are allowed to come back there. Mr. Fertitta talked about the workforce. He's right. When you have opportunities there, people stay there. You build your families there. You look at, I've looked at a lot of commercial space down there. When I hear the rent is kind of high, from my understanding. I don't know that be factual. I haven't talked with the housing authority, whoever, but you know, if you're talking about a place that folks need a start, maybe need to look at a program to help some of those empty spaces be a startup for some of those folks. Residents can start maybe a little small cigar place where people can lounge around, or something, or they can buy some little knickknacks or whatever. Those are starters, you know. And if that's what that community is supposed to be, a community, I'm hoping that they kind of look at that. If that what they're saying is the rent is so high, people can't afford to be there. We don't want that. We want to be able to make sure that we have something that's sustainable. I know we have the hotel that's coming on board down there as well, right?
There's I think one lot that they are discussing, the hotel that's more so facing downtown, correct?
Okay. So, you know, those are the kind of things I'm looking at. You talked about the kids. You know, I'm a big advocate of the kids.
100%.
I'm going to be asking later on Ms. Van Long about Kid Mason, because I think that's going to be a big thing with that. I knew it would be with Central Park coming back. They need a recreation center to go to. That's why I advocated for that. So we thank you for your work, and we hope that you stay involved like you say you would. And,
oh, yeah.
And this is council, this board can help any way we can. We're going to be there to make sure this city's growing and those communities are growing. So I thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your guys' time and for inviting me.
Thank you.
Thanks, y'all.
Item number 2, staff reports. Good morning, Ms. Orr.
Manager for Ybor City. I'll just wait for the PowerPoint to come up. Oh, there we go. Ybor City, please. Next slide. So the first item I mentioned in my last report, and that was that the Ybor CAC with the committee chairs, of which we have 3 committees, met with Councilman Orlando Goods and Mayor Jane Castor, and that was a productive meeting. So I announced it was happening. It did take place, and it was productive and appreciated and very helpful to our group. So we appreciate that participation. The Ybor Advisory Group, early in December and then later in this month, this body approved the enhanced security of TPD coverage through April the 10th. It started on Halloween weekend and then will continue through April the 10th. It includes a sergeant and 6 officers to patrol Fridays and Saturday evenings from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. And as requested, Captain Brett Owen will appear here on February the 11th to provide an update on the program and the progress made to date. The newly established subcommittee of the Public Safety Committee is convening to create an integrated and comprehensive security strategy for Ybor City. So far, we have had a couple of meetings, and TPD and community perspectives were gathered to incorporate into the plan, and then consideration to reactivate the former TPD substation at Centro Ybor was suggested, along with other immediate action items. That's going to our Public Safety Committee that convenes at 3:30 today, and then once the committee is agreeable to the draft plan that's been created, which is about a 6-page document, it'll then go to the Ybor CAC for approval on Tuesday, January 26th, and then on to you eventually. We've continued with our coordinated quarterly CRA Citizen Advisory Committee chairpersons meetings, and we held that one recently. The next one will be held in March. There are some listed items there of some of the items that were discussed amongst the CAC chairpersons. Our staff has engaged with legal to discuss a host of district interests, and those are listed here. Staff reviewed a new facade grant program application that will come your way eventually at 1514 East 7th Avenue. And the staff had an interview with Invest Tampa Bay on the current state of Ybor City's economy. And by participating in that interview, it helped me to appreciate that regardless of our current circumstances and the environment that we're in right now, Ybor has done quite well in regard to economic development progress. One new exciting development is that the Barrio Latino Commission in December approved a new dog park to be located at 1804 East 4th Avenue. And listed are the goals and attributes of the developer. And this is very key to the progress in Ybor City that we're making with open space. So open space is a top priority of the community. So this is a very welcomed addition. I wanted to let you know that the Hillsborough County staff did decide to reject 2 of the proposals that were submitted for the public-private partnership development between 21st and 22nd Street off Palm Avenue. It would have incorporated a variety of county uses as well as our Entrepreneur Collaborative Center, and then a very desired parking garage over on the east side. So for now, that is not moving forward. They're going to, due to COVID, just reevaluate what it is that they truly want out of that proposal and resubmit eventually. I don't have a timeline on that, but something that we were looking forward to is unfortunately not going to occur anytime soon. We have some more momentum on the 7th Avenue Archway Light Project. So that second to last bullet is engaging an engineer that will be working with us on understanding the paver inventory and what needs to be replaced or corrected in the sidewalk environment when the 7th Avenue Archway Light project commences, that we anticipate to happen in the springtime, summertime of this year. And then Palm Avenue median enhancements will occur prior to Super Bowl, just a sprucing up, one of the many sprucing up projects we are doing prior to the Super Bowl. And in regard to my earlier bullet, speaking about the Invest Tampa Bay article interview, these are just some of the businesses that I mentioned that prove that economic development is doing quite well in Ybor. We have Copper Shaker that opened, Cereal Holic, Casa Santo Stefano, Foundation Coffee, Hot Wax Coffee Shop, Big Daddy Crab Seafood and Daiquiri, and Daddy-O's Patio. So those are the listed establishments that will be opening or have recently opened. And then lastly, we always celebrate economic growth of those businesses that thrive in Ybor, that they're able to open second locations. So I just wanted to say congratulations to 7th and Grove, who will open its second location at Sparkman Wharf in the near future. And that ends my report.
Thank you, Ms. Orr.
You're welcome.
Any questions, gentlemen? Thank you.
Okay. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I'm Brenda Thrower. I'm the new interim CRA manager for East Tampa, and I'm glad to be here with you.
You're new? You look so familiar.
I'm new. I'm in a different role. But,
Ms. Thrower, just 1 second. Madam Clerk, for the record, you note that Councilman Vieira and Ms. Dingfelder are here on the dais.
Can you repeat that? I'm sorry.
Just note that Councilman Vieira is here and
Yes,
Dingfelder is here.
and Dingfelder as well.
Thank you for the record. Ms. Thrower, you may continue.
Okay. Oops, back one. That's got something wrong with it. There. Okay. Anyway, good morning. Brenda Thrower with East Tampa CRA. I come to you today as the new interim CRA manager for that CRA. I'm coming on the throes of the retirement of Ed Johnson, who retired at the end of December. So we have had a manager transition. I'm temporary, but I'm there to help the community. I'm enjoying it so far. I kind of stepped across the interstate, I guess, because I've been in Ybor so long, and working with that community has been really exciting. I've been there about 2 weeks. Let's see, next slide.
Excuse me, Ms. Thrower.
Yes.
I recall, Mr. Dingfellow, you made a motion a while back in reference to Mr. Johnson, accommodation, I believe.
Right.
Did we have a set date on that, Madam Clerk?
Not as
To
of
recognize
yet.
Mr. Johnson?
What do you guys know, Michelle?
We're told, I spoke with Ms. Van Loon this morning, and I believe Mr. Johnson will be available for the February CRA meeting, so we will have accommodation ready for him and on the agenda for the February CRA.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Okay, let's have that noted. Thank you. You may continue.
Okay, thank you. So I'll give you a little report about what's happening in East Tampa. Number one, a very popular program we have, the tree trimming program. I know you've heard about it, and a lot of the residents are partaking in this program. We have processed about 500 applications since it began. So to me, that's a very popular program. 350 of these applications have been sent over to contractors, and they're actively working on it. When I stepped into the office, this seemed to be the round-the-clock activity that staff was doing. So they're working very hard to process these and get the trees trimmed. I'll show you, there's some pictures there. Well, one of them didn't show up there, but just these are some of the houses that, you know, these are trees that are for safety purposes. They're hanging over houses. They're really been an issue with the residents, and they're getting some assistance for it. Thank you for approving an additional $500. Sometimes $2,500 just doesn't do the job, and there are some circumstances where an additional $500 could be warranted, and we're looking at those as they come along. Just with any program, I just want you to know that we will look to evaluate this program. You usually do that at about the year mark. To make it more efficient, to look at how we process things so that we can make it better in the future. The other thing that's going on, it's at the end of the slide, but we're having, of course, in-person and community advisory committee meetings. These all take place at Reagan Park. We are working with our IT department to make sure these meetings run seamlessly and that there is good audio, there's good visual, and so forth. I created a monthly calendar. I thought Ybor met a lot, but East Tampa has a lot of meetings. They have a lot of subcommittee meetings. So I created kind of a one-page monthly calendar so that we could see everything that's going on and where these meetings are taking place and get those out to the community. Next.
Ms. Thrower?
Yes.
Is that communication going to be ready to go? I'm hearing a lot about communication, so I want to
Yep.
make sure that we're going to be ready for the next meetings that
Oh,
we have
yes.
no issues.
Yes, actually, all the committees, as y'all know, the partnership has 8 committees. And so all the committees have been staffed with chairs, and we just had the last committee, Public Safety Chair. So we're just waiting on those dates, and I already have it ready. Actually, I have it published. It's at the office when they have their committee meetings, but we'll get it out to everyone as well. I'll make sure it's on the next agenda so that everyone knows, and we'll put it on the website.
But I want to make sure that we've got the equipment now with IT to run the meetings.
Yes.
So people
Yes.
who are virtual can say they can hear it, they can see it, and so forth.
Yes, we're working with that, and that should be up and running by the February 2nd CAC meeting.
Thank you.
Okay. Next on the list is the strategic action plan. Such an exciting time for East Tampa. It's right in the middle of the beginning of this strategic action plan. They have had public outreach. They did a kickoff in December. I know Councilman Goods, you were there at the Reagan Park. They also did a Zoom meeting. And I know Pete Seckler, the consultant, came last meeting to give y'all an update of what's going on. Just so you know, 2 things have happened. There's been surveys that have been sent out through the school system, through the neighborhood associations, through the partnership, and to business and churches. So they're getting these surveys back, so we're going to have some data on that. The next step, the other thing they did was the website. We have weareeasttampa.com. That website is being updated regularly. It's telling you what is happening, what the next steps are, and it's a really attractive website so that folks can go there and get all the information. We have the schedule of upcoming events, and it's also in English and Spanish, so there should be no language impediments there. So the next steps are walking tours, and this will be taking place, kicking off next weekend on January 30th. We identified 4 Saturdays, and we're going to kick it off in 2 neighborhoods, Belmont Heights and College Hill, which we're going to meet at the TPD, the CRA office, to start that tour. And the next tour is at the Jackson Heights, and we will start that tour at the NFL Yet Center. And the whole purpose of the tour is to walk about a mile to hear from the residents what's going on in their neighborhood, what they'd like to see, what they're, just kind of identifying all the different needs of the community. So that's kicking off, and I'll make sure each of you have that schedule so you know. It'll be on the website, but we're going to be communicating this out. We already did a Sentinel ad last week, or this week, and we will also have another notice going out to all the distribution channels to get that out to the neighborhoods. So you'll see some pretty pictures here of folks that were at the kickoff. So that's the kind of excitement we want to see, the participation. And the next step, of course, is these walking tours. And since we have beautiful weather, there should be no problem with people coming out for it. We are avoiding Super Bowl weekend, so we won't be doing that weekend, but we're going to do January 30th and then 3 weekends in February. And moving right along, this is just a fun, colorful chart. I just want everyone aware that this project began, it was supposed to begin in October, but it kicked off more near December. Where we're at now in this chart is in the yellow, the beginning of the yellow. In January, we're doing phase 2, where we're doing all the public input and the outreach. And then we will move in as we get past the spring into the summer months into phase 3, where we'll really start bringing a plan together. And just so I want to get this out to y'all because it's been brought up in a lot of meetings. A lot of folks think an SAP is just about bricks and mortar, about just improving the physical environment of their community. But this plan and all strategic action plans should include all the issues that are happening in the community, including quality of life issues. So a lot of meetings I've been sitting through, I've been hearing about those issues. The consultant is bringing all of this information together, and we did this in Ybor with our vision plan. It's the same effort here, where we will have everything lined up, and then we can prioritize what needs to happen and who's doing what. So that's exciting. And then I'll end on one activity that took place in December, the community gardens. That seems to be a topic today. Well, East Tampa has a community garden, and this one opened up on 22nd Street on December 19th, and there's more to come. I'm going to be meeting with this group that is doing all these exciting community gardens, and I'll report back next month. And that's it. Any questions?
Any questions?
Thank you.
I have one, Ms. Thor. The consultant that's working on the SAP, be advised that he may have reached out to the school district, but I heard that they're focusing on the schools in East Tampa, but keep in mind, a lot of the kids who live in East Tampa are bused out. Mm. So they have to be mindful doing surveys in schools that kids don't live in that community. So let's be mindful of the busing system of where those kids are going to school at, so they have an opportunity to bring those assets that they think should be good in their community. I know a lot of them go way out to McLean. A lot of the kids go to McLean way out there. Young has a lot of IB kids that are in magnet schools that are bused in. Kids don't live there. So let's make sure the consultant's getting with the school district to make sure where actually the East Tampa kids who are being bused out, who are not going to those specialized schools that are within East Tampa district.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Ms. Thurlow, you're doing a good job for a rookie.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman.
All right. Anybody else? That's it? Batter up.
Good morning.
Morning.
Jesus Nino, the West Tampa and Drew Park CRA manager. Sorry about that. Just want to let you know that the West Tampa CAC continues to hold very successful hybrid meetings, usually at Barksdale Community Center. These meetings are virtual, and also we have in-person participation from the community and from the CAC members. So that's continuing to be successful. We're continuing to work on any tweaks we need to make sure that the individuals that are listening in can actually hear us. But so far, we haven't had too many issues since we're working very closely with T&I staff. Revisions to the West Tampa overlay, they continue to move forward. They actually went to the Planning Commission, was approved there to move forward to City Council for first reading, which I think was last week, and that is moving forward to second reading, and staff will work with the city's planning staff to answer any kind of questions the City Council may have there at second reading. We continue to update the community as much as possible through our distribution list, phone calls, and one of the things that I do a lot is I go out there and I actually walk the community. So I walk around the blocks, walk down the street, look at alleyways, talk to individuals on the street, so I let them know what's going on as far as whatever we're doing here at the city. The RFP, which is being led by Rob Rosner, that's continuing to move forward as well. The individuals that are going to review those proposals, they've all been given copies of those proposals, and we're all under a code of silence. And once that the first meeting is held, then we'll start reviewing that and kind of discuss the proposals and rank them. TICO continues its work to extend power or adequate power to the West Woodward development. And from what I understand, it's minimal disruption to the community, and if there is any kind of complaints, they can come to me or to other city staff, and we can talk to the contractors to make sure that's being taken care of, any kind of disruption.
I have a question, Mr.
Yes,
Chair.
sir.
You recognize, sir.
Just before you move off that screen, go back to the screen. There you go. In regard to the RFP for the Rome Yard, do we have anybody from the CRA, perhaps Michelle or somebody else, who is on the review panel?
Myself, Michelle Van Loan, and we also have an individual from our CAC on there as well. Then a backup on our CAC.
Okay.
So Mr. Robinson, I think Mr. Robinson there, right, sir?
Yes, Joe Robinson.
And I know that while that process is going on, it's not totally in the sunshine, but perhaps I don't know if you are already, but perhaps you could keep the chairman informed, on what's going on, just so the CRA board is plugged in to a certain extent.
We'll make sure to do that as much as possible.
Mr. Dingfelder, I did have a meeting with our economic development officer and our growth development manager a couple of days ago, and I did talk about, it came up about the West River project as well, and I made mention about developers, making sure that, we have a lot of developers who are not really stationed here, but have satellite offices here that get city contracts. And I made mention about minorities that are in other cities that do great work in other cities as well, and let's not make sure we not leave them off the table just because they might be in another city and say, well, they're in another city, we want the economic money to stay here in Tampa. Well, yes, that's true, but those same companies can be a part of Tampa, have satellite programs here, and start investing here in Tampa with growth and development, with jobs and so forth as well, just like those other big companies, I don't call them their names, that started here because they came from someplace else. So we can't be afraid, and make sure you put that on the table, to look at the minorities in other states that might want to come here to do work. And I'm sure some of the council members would agree with me, we have to give opportunity where opportunity is available, and this is going to be a big project. So if you refer that to the next meeting at the, I mentioned that, I'm sure Mr. Dingfelder feels the same way, but I think we must look at that. We just can't keep doing business with the same people. We have to give other folks an opportunity to be here in Tampa, to start up here in Tampa, and that way it looks like we're doing the right thing for everybody. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. The Main Street Corridor Study, that's continuing to move forward. I think they're going to go ahead and close down their data collection phase and interview phase at the end of this month. From what I understand, they've interviewed a lot of people out there in the community. I've been involved in many of those interviews to some of the small businesses locally, the bigger individuals, businesses out there, real estate people, residents, and you name it, they've interviewed them.
Can I say one thing?
You recognize, sir.
Yeah, I think I'm speaking to my colleagues, I think you all know that, although it doesn't say it in the name, that whatever they call it, Main Street Corridor Study, is a result of the proposal that we made a year and a half ago to create neighborhood commercial districts. And in the Beta Bay McDill one, they are calling it the Neighborhood Commercial District Study. This is the same thing, but it has a slightly different name. But I think that the Neighborhood Commercial District idea is one of the most important things we can do because it helps make the quality of life better for our neighbors. It helps enhance communities and neighborhoods. It helps take transportation off the road, because if people have amenities nearby, they can walk to them instead of. And you all supported this idea a couple years ago. We twice voted on it and supported it. It turned out that instead of the Planning Commission doing it, the city is staffing up on planning in-house. And the idea originally was that we would do one in each district. And so now we're doing one in South Tampa, one in West Tampa. We need to do at least one in East Tampa and then one in North Tampa. And so Mr. Goods or whoever, I would recommend that you all talk to Randy and Carol and try to start advocating for doing those, because I think once we have one in each district, we'll be able to prove the model and prove that it's a great way of thinking about an integrated community. Instead of just thinking about the housing part or thinking about the commercial part, we're thinking about it in an integrated way and how it all works together. And instead of just looking at roads, typically each piece of infrastructure is looked at differently. So roads or internet or pipes or whatever. Now they're looking at the whole thing together to figure out how it integrates to try to build quality of life. And if once we get 4 or 5 of these, I think it'll be a great model. There's potentially 130 of these throughout the city, and we should make sure we continue it. Thank you.
Well, I think that when we get to new business, you can make a motion, and you can direct Ms. Van Loan to get with the growth management, Abby, and also the economic development officer for the city, and bring back a report on that.
Thank you. And Randy Gores and Frank Hall are actually leading this particular study here, but they are taking a very holistic approach. I'm pretty impressed by their approach they're taking. They're looking at everything through their market analysis they're doing out there, and they're hitting it from many approaches, so I agree. Construction continues to move forward on a lot of different projects out in West Tampa. Particularly the West River projects, they're continuing to move forward. I walked around the block a few times last week out there, and these buildings are just popping up very quickly. There's a lot of individuals out there working. They're not really disrupting the nearby streets or the residents. Some of the pictures there kind of didn't come out, but that's okay. Then the Renaissance at West River, that's already opened up for business. Individuals are starting to move in and continue to move in. As far as the retail space and commercial space at the bottom, they still seem to be kind of vacant, but hopefully the Tampa Housing Authority has a strategy for that, and we'll work with them if they want us to do that. This other project here is over by Howard and Armenia, in between by Lemon Street. It's moving along pretty quickly as well. It's the Foundry NoHo. It's looking very good lately. Same thing like the other projects, minimal disruption to the community. This one is a little bit closer to Kennedy, over at the top. It's the NoHo Square. It's a very large construction project out there, and it's popping up quickly as well. Hopefully they can get that done by the end of the year or the beginning of next year. The Mary Bethune-Cookman apartment project, that's complete, and residents are continuing to move into that as well. Then this other project here is a private preschool. It's called the Goddard School. Construction on that also continues to move forward successfully. It says there mid-2021, but it's looking like it potentially might be done at the beginning of 2022. Then the Greenspine cycle track, looks like it's almost complete. I was walking it yesterday, and I see bikers are already on it. In our section, phase 2 at least. That concludes West Tampa. Any questions?
Any questions in reference to West Tampa? I have certain,
Yes, sir.
I received a phone call from a organization, I think the Partners of Seventh and, Partners of Seventh. I guess they bought the building in West Tampa. I guess they've said they're trying to have conversations in reference to the CRA and in reference to facade. I don't know if you've met with them or heard of that group.
What's the name of the group again?
I think it's Seventh and Partners, Seventh and Grove Partners.
Oh, yes, they own the restaurant over in Ybor City. That's Dr. Wright and Mr. Wright. We met with them on site, and we've had a few telephone conversations with them. We sent them over a facade grant, and we're working with them pretty closely on that. They're working, their building has spray painted on it, Jet Life over on Main Street by Salsinas Park. So if they pull that off, it's going to be very beautiful for the area. They're planning to move their pharmacy there. And
That's correct.
a little restaurant and a nail salon, so we're working with them very closely.
And the reason I asked that because they did ask in reference to they have parking, but a small portion of the parking is city parking or city land, and they've asked for some assistance with that. I did mention that to Ms. Post, but if you can, next CRA, give an update of where we're at of them trying to obtain that little, so I went and drove. It's a little very small piece, so it can have that parking for the pharmacy. I think that would be very, very good for the West Tampa area to have a pharmacy and a clinic on and operated, especially a minority business in that community. So I applaud them for those efforts, and they're going to try to do the same thing over in East Tampa as well, at one of our bad sites that they're trying to work with. So if you could work with them on that and give us an update at the next CRA meeting in reference to the facade and in reference to that parking, be greatly appreciated.
I'll do that. And that individual couple, they're very young entrepreneurs, go-getters, African-American, and that's the kind of individuals we like to work with, so I'll give you that update.
Thank you, sir.
Any more questions on West Tampa? No?
I don't believe so. You can continue, sir.
Okay. Moving on to Drew Park, the Tampa Bay Linear Park, that's basically complete. We're just installing 2 signs on there. They're going to have historical language, and once that's done, then we'll come show you the pictures of those signs. We're continuing to work with our consultant to wrap up our strategic action plan. We're happy to report that a draft has been submitted to us a few weeks ago. Staff is reviewing it. Michelle Van Loan has sent it out to the different departments in the city for them to review it. Our CAC members, they're also reviewing it. And at our next meeting, February 2nd, over at Hillsborough Community College, which will be a hybrid meeting, we're going to discuss some of those details in that draft plan. Then eventually we'll bring it to you, and so we can discuss it in further detail with the CRA. Indirect activity. The steakhouse over on Del Mabry, it seems like those units have been completed. They have a sign up there with many new tenants that are supposed to move in. I think it mostly is because of the COVID. Some of that activity hasn't, some of those individuals haven't moved in just yet, but hopefully they do pretty soon. That concludes Drew Park, and we're continuing to work with the businesses out there as well, very closely on projects.
Thank you, sir. I hear highly good things about you. I was at a meeting in Manatee County. I didn't know you came from Manatee County, and heard gentlemen, we got a steal, I tell you. From I hear some of the people, they hated you had to go, you left, but we're glad to have you. Thank you for being aboard.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chair, if I may,
You're recognized, sir.
I wanted to also add to that just how impressive you've done, sir. Just been impressed with you as well as other folks relatively new to that. I know Ms. Thrower is obviously not new, but I think she's doing a great job in her position, and we just appreciate everybody who's come on and being so professional. So just thank you guys for your hard work. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And Mr. Rivera, thank you for that. And the constituents see that. They see the enthusiasm. They see the attention that's being given, not delays, in trying to get things moving and make these areas a better area. We appreciate the work that the newcomers are doing, and Ken, just keep up the good work.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Valerie Farrell. This is my first time presenting, so go
Welcome.
easy on me. I am the new Downtown Channel District, Central Park, and Tampa Heights Riverfront CRA manager. As I like to kid, I'm Rob 2.0, and this will be my first time presenting, but I'd like to share that I'm coming to you all with big ideas, with a community focus, and I certainly look forward to working with each of you on each of these 4 areas. Before I begin, though, I'd like to share that the monthly reports I am sharing with you this month is going to be brief, and I would like to hear your feedback. If you have feedback on certain points of interest or areas of interest projects, please share that with myself or Ms. Van Loan so that I can bring back specific reports or areas of interest that you have so that I can make sure I'm bringing back information that's relevant and timely for your information. So with that, I'll begin.
You may begin.
So into downtown, our direct activities are on Cass Street and Tyler Street, the road work right in front of the Straz Performing Arts Center. You may have seen that Tyler is open to the Straz, and it now has the connection to Cass. Cass is still partially closed. However, that road work is mostly complete. We actually had a pre-closeout call yesterday. We're getting ready to work with the contractors on preparing for closeout on that portion of the road work. And you can start to see the new McInnes Place roadway being formed, which is pretty exciting. It hasn't been there. So that's starting to take shape. And the Riverwalk at the Straz Performing Arts Center is now open to the public. Indirect activities, and I'm sorry that the image is not loading there for everyone else, but the site of many names that has been highly anticipated on the Riverwalk. This is on Ashley Drive, known as 1 Ashley Tower. It has been submitted for a building permit in December. It's expected to start construction in May of 2021. It is a 222-key hotel with 230 unit multifamily building. And we are very excited to see those plans being submitted. And we just wanted to give you an update that those building plans have been submitted for permitting. And that's all I have for downtown. Are there any questions regarding this or anything else downtown related?
You may continue.
Okay. I can move on to Channel District.
You can move on.
Thank you. As you can see here, we have an updated schedule on the Channel District-wide projects. This just shows you an update on a few design elements and a few of the subcategories for additional work that's been added to the schedule. The main update here is that Channelside Drive will begin in spring. In actuality, that will probably begin in February, and that work specifically will begin south of the intersection of Kennedy Boulevard on the west side of the right-of-way on the southbound side of Channelside Drive. So look forward to those announcements coming to you soon, and we're excited to get that large portion of the work underway very soon. And that is still an 8-month build, but we expect to get that moving very quickly. Also, another very exciting project like East Tampa and Drew Park, Channel District will be going through an SAP update as well as a CRP update. You just approved the work order to get that underway, so there will be a huge public engagement and outreach process going on, kicking off probably in February through the end of May. At the same time, there will be conditions assessments and a presentation that you'll be receiving on the Channel District. So a very exciting time, especially for me being new. I'm excited to really get into the work here to see what we can uncover in the Channel District and how we can move forward with the progress as of today's date. So that is all I have for Channel District. Are there any questions?
Any questions, gentlemen? Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to Tampa Heights Riverfront. There are no direct activities this month. However, the roundabout progress that Soho Capital has been working on is pretty significant. On North Boulevard, you can certainly see that those are taking shape. Soho continues to finalize the exterior of the Heights Union buildings. If you visit Armature Works or any of those lovely places there, you can certainly see the work is progressing very significantly. And the Riverwalk is substantially complete. I think it is actually almost 100% complete at the Waterworks Park, just short of North Boulevard. That is all I have for Tampa Heights Riverfront. Any
questions, gentlemen?
Could I-
Mr. Carlson, you recognize.
Thank you. Just an idea for channel side, and maybe it's an idea for all of the CRA districts. But one of the discussions that we've had over the last year and a half is that there should, or at least I've suggested, is there should be a higher burden for what we spend CRA money on because the rest of the city is subsidizing them. And there's some areas that it's obvious that we should be subsidizing. But in areas like Channel District and downtown, I think there's an even higher threshold that we should think about. We should not spend the money just because we have the money. We need to think about, what's fair to the rest of the city. And so along those lines, I was just thinking it might be useful to work with the neighborhood department and hold a virtual roundtable of all the neighborhood leaders throughout the city, and just present as part of the SAP process for Channel District, and present maybe the initial findings of the plan, and just get their feedback on what's being spent in Channel District. And if the rest of the neighborhoods are fine subsidizing it, then that's input that we can use. And if they're not, or if they think we should set a different threshold, that would be some good input as well. From South Tampa to the rest of the city, there are parks that are falling apart, there are roads that are falling apart, sidewalks that haven't been built are falling apart. And so there's a high demand for money to fix infrastructure and amenities. And there should be some subsidies of certain areas, but if an area is already doing really well and doesn't have slum and blight, then what feedback can we get from the broader community about their willingness or interest in subsidizing the areas that are mostly doing well now? Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
If I may, Mr. Chair.
You recognize, sir.
Good rookie effort. Well done. That's all.
Thank you. I have one more slide. There isn't
may
any
continue.
comments here. Okay. And to conclude, I didn't want to spend a lot of time, but I will add some comments. My chair, Mr. Murphy, did an excellent job, and I appreciate his efforts and his excitement and enthusiasm for Central Park. He's actually a great partner for me to begin exploring the needs of the community, as Councilman Carlson mentioned. And I can say that I'm learning a lot of history, and Central Park is a great place to start. So in looking forward to this year, one of the number one things that I see as a priority is public engagement and advocacy for our communities. Central Park certainly is a donut hole for the communities, the surrounding communities of Tampa, and I certainly want to see how we can do better at just creating programs that help that community. So something that our newbies here in the CRA office have been doing is brainstorming about programs that we can offer in each of our districts, whether they apply to each CRA or just certain CRA districts. So I can say that is something that will be coming to you soon as we take those through each CAC committee and get their feedback on how they best work within each district. And Councilman or Chair Goods, you had mentioned Kid Mason renovation. That is actually funded through downtown. However, it is directly adjacent to Central Park. And I did just have a brief update with Parks and Recreation. It is on schedule. I know that the plans for that renovation are about 90% complete. So I've asked for an update on that timeline for the schedule to release those out for construction bids, and also to make sure that public engagement is a part of that, because I know the community uses that, and I also want to capitalize on that utilization and make sure that it's made aware to the community that facility is there. I would like to see how we can make that connection, even if it's pedestrian improvements across the roadway there, and see how we can better utilize our park spaces across neighborhoods. Even if we have hard CRA boundaries, I'd like to see how we can better cross those within reason and within the rules that allow us to do so. But if there are no other questions, that concludes my presentation.
I'm glad you said that, and I like your forward thinking on that, because that's why I did it, because if that Central Park is going to grow, which I think doesn't have families, you need a decent park for those kids to go to as a recreational facility and for programming. So you can have parks, but sometimes parks, people know, they have a lot of programs that go on inside those facilities. So I like the forward thinking. I'm very upset that this project has been taking this long, it's dragging its feet. This project was asked for almost 2 years ago? Well, now we're going on 2 years on this council, we've asked for that. And I just don't understand how we're dragging our feet on this project so long. So I'm glad, and I had been asking for monthly reports on that. I'm glad you're gonna bring me something back to me on February. But that project is dragging its feet, and it needs to pick up. I mean, it really needs to pick up. It doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know why so long, but we've asked this for a long time. So I'm glad that you have some forward thinking about some connection with that downtown in Central, because you're right, it may need some improvements for a crosswalk or whatever, because kids are going to be there. And just like the gentleman said, they're now on the courts out there. I mean, I don't know how many gentlemen have been to that Kid Mason, but it is a dump. You talked about Fair Oaks, Mr. Carlson? Kid Mason is worse. I mean, 20 times worse. It looks like a prison. That's what it looks like. So I'm hoping that we quit dragging our feet and let's get that project moving, because obviously we've got kids that are out there that can be able to come to that park and have a decent place to go for programming. So thank you for your forward thinking.
Absolutely.
Anyone else? Mr. Carlson?
Just one more thing to all of you, staff, and welcome to all of you, and I look forward to getting to know you. But one of the key things that I've heard this morning that really sounds good to me is that you're thinking about these plans as vision and interconnectivity of people and communities, not just buildings and infrastructure. And I think in the past, there was a lot of focus on subsidizing development because of the way CRAs work. And even though there are limits as to how we can spend CRA money, we need to be thinking about how the communities will operate, what is the quality of life that the communities need. Chair Goods mentioned bringing a pharmacy into a neighborhood. We know in Channel District that the community wanted a Publix, and so our predecessors worked on getting a grocery store there. Other neighborhoods throughout the city want Publix. South of Gandy wants one, or other food markets. And so the good thing is that even though we're limited by what we can spend in CRA, we need to be listening to the community about the vision that they want, where in the past what happened is we thought, well, if we can just, prior administrations thought if we could just subsidize development, then we'll bring something in. What the community is telling us is they want a better quality of life, and that means the things like pharmacies and supermarkets and crosswalks, all those things that you all mentioned. Even though we can't directly pay for some of it, at least we need to know about it and know about how our investments tie in. So thank you all for thinking big like that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good job. Michelle, where are you finding these people at, huh?
Michelle Van Loan again. If we can pull up PowerPoint number 3. At Councilmember Dingfelter's request, we do have the Straz Performing Arts Center on the line. Judy Lisi, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning. I will let her introduce her team that is also on the phone, and then they will move on to their presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michelle. Good morning, everyone. I'm Judy Lisi. I have been privileged to be president and CEO of our Straz Center for almost 29 years. Excuse me, and we are so happy to be here today. As you know, we were hoping to bring this presentation to you a year ago. We got sidetracked by the pandemic when we were forced to close in March. And so we had to put so many of our energies toward how we were actually going to survive. But I'm glad to report we are making it through. We have found some terrific funding on a federal level that's helping us, and our donors have been wonderful. The community and their outreach to us has been amazing. So I want to thank everyone for helping us get through this hard time. While we've been closed, however, excuse me, we haven't stopped working, and we have been continually assessing our master plan. The good news is we learned so much about our closure and how important our outdoor areas are and how important and vital outdoor performance spaces are. So we've had the opportunity to be able to actually make our plan even better. This morning with me is Mr. David Schur. David is a longtime and hardworking member of our Straz Center Board of Trustees and chair of our Master Planning Committee. And Mr. Lawrence Shepard, my colleague that has worked side by side with me at the Straz, he's our Chief Operating Officer. and he's project director on the master plan. And David will speak briefly after the slide presentation. After 9 years of research and planning, we come to you today with a bold master plan for the Strass Center, one of the city's most important assets. It's a plan that will make the Strass an even more vibrant destination, fueling economic growth, driving tourism, and bolstering our impactful service to the community for years to come. When we started this project, we knew we need to reimagine and update the facility for its next 35 years to keep it state-of-the-art as it was 35 years ago when it was envisioned. As we've worked to emerge from this pandemic, we've come to realize that our plan contains so many features that are increasingly more relevant to ensure unparalleled experiences. We do hope you will share our excitement and be inspired to invest in this transformational project. Slide 1, please. In the 1980s, our city, business, and community leaders built the Tampa Bay Performing Arts Center as an economic engine that would help make Tampa a great city with a wonderful quality of life, attracting businesses, new residents, tourism of all kinds, and more. And I think if you look at downtown Tampa today, it has been transformational. Today, our mission and vision are also our promise to the community. Next slide. Our outdoor Riverwalk stage. With our reopening underway, our Riverwalk stage is bustling with outdoor performances. This is a small example of the kind of outdoor excitement and safe public gathering experience that the Strass Master Plan promises. Next slide. From a community's dream and a true public-private partnership, one of the nation's leading performing arts centers has emerged. Here's our historical impact since the doors opened in 1987. Next slide, please. Our cultural impact shows you the breadth of our reach, our attendance, and our year-round services. Our attendance is a strong measure of our ability to attract the best shows available and sustain our tradition of artistic excellence. Next slide. Our annual economic impact and our growth as an industry leader in the performing arts are significant. We have grown to become Florida's largest not-for-profit cultural institution, from hosting thousands of business and community meetings and events to being the cultural heart and soul of the region. The Strass Center is an iconic cultural asset that makes our city a marvelous destination. Each year, we bring almost 3 times the population of Tampa through our doors, with more than 1,600 world-class performances on our 6 stages. Next slide. We work year-round to introduce arts education to children and adults in our region, especially to those who might not otherwise have such opportunities. In fact, our Performing Arts Center was the very first in the nation to establish a fully accredited teaching conservatory with scholarships for anyone who needs them. Next slide. Our community engagement program leads our mission-based commitment to enrich our entire community. Through virtual and live programs, we have continued our focus on inclusion, diversity, equality, and accessibility, even during these challenging times. Our highly diverse Arts Legacy Remix program, Riverwalk stage performances, outdoor art exhibits, and interactive installations leverage our location as a cultural destination open to everyone. We make the performing arts accessible to all through subsidized ticket programs for students, military families, first responders, and through scholarships for financially challenged families. For the past 3 years, we have also partnered with the National Endowment of the Arts and the Department of Defense to create a model arts engagement program to help veterans and their families have healthier transitions back into community life. Next slide. As a responsible steward of this important city asset, we have always taken extremely good care of this amazing facility. We are proud of our adaptive nature and our ability to respond to the needs and priorities of our civic leaders, the community, our patrons, students, and artists. As shown here, we have made numerous capital improvements, one project at a time, to keep the Strass Center state-of-the-art, efficient, and sustainable. Next slide. So here we are on the edge of a remarkable opportunity. We are calling our project Boundless, a vision for the new Strass. We believe we have the boundless potential to change the future, to become an extraordinary gathering place on our Riverwalk that enhances Tampa's quality of life and standing on the world stage. We will offer boundless cultural experiences plus unequaled opportunities outside our theaters with more free outdoor programming. We're ready to blow out the walls, take you to the river, show off the city, and send an invitation to the community and to the world. Next slide, please. To ensure our future success, we are guided by the principles you see here. With our public partners and private sector contributors, we will create a new dimension to the Straz, a renewed place that will be emulated around the world. Next slide. As an example, here is the Sydney Opera House. Yes, a world-class destination that began, again, beautiful, iconic architecture. But today, they have added all this outdoor space, and it's now a public gathering place that does not require you to have a ticket or attend a performance. It is simply the place to be for the community and for visitors around the world, any time of day or night. Next slide, please. In comparison to our peers and competitors in Florida that have been built after the Straz Center opened, such as the Kravis Center in Palm Beach and Broward Center in Fort Lauderdale, they already have the necessary event spaces that we so desperately need to create. Next slide. The Straz Center Master Plan will create the new Straz. It will offer exciting possibilities for the Performing Arts Center, the Riverwalk, the Hillsborough River, and downtown Tampa. Visitors at the new Straz will not need a ticket. Let us show you some of the features we have planned. Next slide. Here is our welcoming new entrance on the corner of McGinnis and Tyler, a Tampa-style Times Square appeal. And in that picture, you can see already the work that you saw before in the downtown CRA. Now you have a direct view right from Tyler all the way down to the water. Next slide. Our Arrival Plaza on the Riverwalk will have a view of Tampa's new iconic sculpture that rises from the river. Next slide. This is a view from Cass Street Bridge that shows the a flowing new architectural fascia that will give the center a wonderful new forward-looking, exciting look. A close-up of the floating iconic sculpture and new dockage for access by boat. And the boat traffic now is so big. We're constantly having boats coming right up to our Riverwalk stage, and they just stay there and watch the shows. Next slide, please. Our new bistro on the Riverwalk will be a place to enjoy casual fare and live entertainment. It will be accessible at the Riverwalk level and lobby terrace level. Next slide, please. The new Grand Terrace includes shading from the new architectural fascia. I don't know if we can see that. That's lights. There seems to be a problem with that slide. Sorry about that. Maybe we should go to the next slide because that slide seems to have a problem. Okay, let's do that. I'm going to go right to this next one. This will be the new lobby. When you come to the center now, our lobbies are small and we put so much into them because we have restaurants in them. These are all the things we didn't have, but they're packed. This will be new uncrowded Morsani and Ferguson Hall lobbies, and they'll be expanded and combined into one large space that moves out into the river. Next slide, please. Here's the public cafe on the main level at the north end of Morsani lobby. You can see the flowing and almost transparent architectural fascia and exterior view. Next slide. Our new full-service restaurant will be open, of course, to our Straz patrons, but also to the public, and will have a wonderful view of the river and west skyline and multiple seating options. Next slide. Also accessible to the public. Oh, that's not working either. This was a picture of our rooftop terrace, which will have a seating and ample shading and a full bar and will be used year-round. It will be the largest rooftop terrace in Tampa in Hillsborough County. Next slide. This should be slide 23. Do we have another slide? Yep, here we go. This is the view. We're almost done here with the slides. This is the view from the northwest side of the campus along the riverfront, where the expansion will include a new multi-purpose event center, a much-needed extension of the Patel Conservatory, a new outdoor performance space, our experience with our current Riverwalk stage, and the fact that when we go, we'll get past COVID, but there could be other times when we'll have to close for reasons we don't know. but this drives our strategy to expand our outdoor performance capacity. Next slide, please. The Event Center. This is the pre-function space of the multipurpose event center, the large component of the master plan that will address our needs in 3 areas: programming, arts education, and hospitality. Next slide. The Event Center will be able to accommodate community meetings, conferences, galas, and also function as a cabaret-style performance space. It will also strengthen our capacity for convention business and will be available to visit Tampa Bay and the Convention Center as overflow space for their events. Next slide. The Event Center can also be used for arts education classes and divided to accommodate different sizes. Finally, the new north entrance will help divert traffic congestion and provide access to the Conservatory Event Center and Morsani lobby. It will include a welcome center providing customer service to patrons and can also serve as an information center. Next slide. As you can see, our master plan creates boundless potential that will invite the community and the world to a vibrant cultural destination. Our unequaled artistic guest and hospitality experiences leverage our significant riverfront opportunities, create additional space for Tampa's corporate and convention tourism business, expand facilities for our innovative, nationally recognized arts education programs, and transform the Strass Center experience for a new generation. And now I'd like to invite David to continue the presentation. David? Is David here?
David, you're muted.
He's here. He's muted. And could we advance 2 slides, please?
Okay.
Next slide, please. Thank you.
Okay, David?
David, there's a menu that's on the on your screen where you can unmute your mic.
Well, David, if you're not, if he's not able to, David? Okay, why don't I continue? We don't want to waste your time, of course. Okay, these were, think of me as David right now.
Oh, that's scary. That's scary.
I got it, I think, Judy.
Oh, good. Okay,
All right,
David.
good.
Can everybody hear me now?
We can hear you.
Sorry about that, everybody. I got a senior moment in technology. So you've heard today are the principles behind why we are launching this master plan and why we believe that you should join us. The 4 key components are that the Strass drives an enormous economic impact for downtown and our entire region. Think of 3 times the population of the city of Tampa coming through our doors and visiting our 6 stages every year. The plan is perfect for our time. It's a post-COVID plan with features that enhance our performing arts experience and address relevant priorities. We've never asked for funding of this magnitude before from the city, but we believe it's an investment in the future for the city of Tampa. This is a city of Tampa property. So today we are asking the city of Tampa and the downtown CRA to invest in the Strass Center, one of the city's most important assets. This is our ask. We are respectfully requesting your commitment to $5 million per year for the next 5 years, beginning with fiscal year 2022 for the Strass Master Plan. And we are asking the CRA board today to direct city staff to work with the Strass Center to achieve a similar agreement structure as been afforded to other applicants in the past and that both parties can be comfortable with. The public sector will support and will inspire and leverage our private sector campaign, which is also already in place and ready to go. Together we can change the future and create something smart and meaningful. The new Strass will lift Tampa's cultural reputation, our region's economy, our children's education, our community's quality of life, generations to come. We're ready to do something boundless, arm in arm, with the city of Tampa and the CRA. We look forward to partnering with you to launch the next era. Thank you. I think we're all looking for questions and comment.
Any questions, gentlemen? You recognize Mr. Dingfelder.
Thank you. Thank you, Judith and David and Lauren. Lauren, I didn't know if you had anything to add today. You've been there, I think, as long as Judith and doing great work.
But thank you, John. It's exciting to be able to continue our discussions on this master plan, and I appreciate over the years all the time that many of you have taken to delve into the project and understand what we're doing and what we're seeing for the future. I'm just very excited to have this active, particularly considering the times that we're in now. I really do think it's a great time to move forward. Thank you.
And David, Mr. Chairman, if I could follow up.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
David, Judith probably mentioned it, and maybe you did as well, but I think it's worth stressing that this is a private and public partnership. So can you extrapolate that a little bit in regard to the total costs anticipated with this very massive community investment, and what the private component of that is anticipated?
Sure. We expect the private participation to be approximately 50%. The plan, depending on the alternatives we move forward with, and we've been examining the plan very carefully post-COVID. Believe it or not, we really inadvertently produced a post-COVID plan, pre-COVID. So we've done some tweaking and may add a few dollars to the plan, but I think it's well worth it. We're looking at a plan of about $80 million, and we're looking for the private sector to look at half of it, and as soon as we have the public sector to commit to half of it, and as soon as we've gotten that commitment, we will move forward very seriously with the private sector. We already have our cabinet in place, our campaign cabinet, which is called the Boundless Campaign, and we have literature in place. We've started very quietly the private campaign prior to COVID, and in the next quarter, we're planning to ramp that up.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I have a motion, but I'll hold it in case there's any other board comments.
I have a couple of questions. Mr. Carlson, you recognize?
Yes, my colleagues and I think the public will know that I tried several months ago, or have tried over the last year or so, to put a cap on the downtown CRA, because I think that if the rest of the community is subsidizing something, then it should address what the law says about slum and blight. I didn't have support for that, so if we're going to keep the money in downtown, if we're going to subsidize downtown, and it's been a success in the past, my point is just that the rest of the city really needs money also. But if we're going to keep that money in, then I think we need to set a high threshold for how we would use that money. Number one, it should be something that the whole city can enjoy. If the rest of the city is going to subsidize the CRAs, especially ones that don't really have slum and blight, it should be something that the whole community can enjoy. And the Stratus Center obviously is one of those premier venues that people can enjoy, and also participate from the shows of all levels to the Patel Conservatory and now the outdoor events. Number two is it needs to be an economic engine. And clearly the arts are one of the greatest economic engines anywhere. If you think about back in the 80s and early 90s, the Ybor City had lots of arts groups, and people thought, well, that's the beginning of gentrification, it's the beginning of renewal. But then when Ybor turned into a bar district, the artists left, and a lot of them went to St. Pete. So they moved to downtown St. Pete, and then they got pushed out of there, and then they went to the the warehouse district, and now they were just about to get kicked out of there, but they were able to buy their own district. The point is that many people think the arts are the beginning of developing or lifting up an area. The fact is that people want to live and work near the arts, and that's why one reason why the Strass Center has been so helpful to the community over the years, because of that. The arts are a fantastic economic engine, probably second only maybe to universities. And so we need to support them. They've been underfunded. Most of the budgets of the arts were cut in the last 10 years, and in a way we're doing catch up, although we're looking forward to fund this. And also I think, the first two tests are for the community, but the other test is the organization run well? And we know with Judy Lisi, David Scherer, his predecessors as chairs, and the board that they have, they've done a fantastic job. This center is known worldwide. Judy is very well known in Broadway and in London and the art centers of the world. It has put Tampa on the international map, which helps attract businesses and high quality people here to help drive our economy. And so it's well run. It's an amenity for the whole city. And it's a huge economic engine, way beyond even the people that eat at restaurants and everything. And so with all that said, I would be happy to second a motion or support it in any way I can, because I think this is essential and vital. Also, one last thing, Judy hopefully will be here another 20 years, but eventually we won't have her. And the good thing is we have her brilliance and expertise looking over all the other experts that are putting this together now. And so I feel honored that we have this unique opportunity to be able to push this project forward. Thank you.
Anyone else? Ms. Van Loan, a couple of questions. Question number one, the legalities. Can the CRA support this project? And two, can the downtown CRA financially support the project for this extensive period of time when they're asking for $5 million a year?
I'll start with the second question first. As we discussed over the summer, this and into the fall, this question has come up several times. As for funding, we did include it in our planning budget for, as we've discussed over summer in some of the workshops, at $5 million for 3 years. We will have to go back and work with the budget office, and I'll have Valerie update her planning budget to look what $5 million over 5 years would do for the budget, and if we have that capacity with the current budget and projections. So we will certainly be able by February to come back and tell you, yes, whether we can do 15 or 25 over those 3 or 5 years. So I know at a minimum, we had planned for the 15 million, but we will have to come back and redo that analysis for the 25 million. As far as legally, I will let Morse correct me if I'm wrong, but we have been looking at this again since last summer when this first came up. Our CRP, Community Redevelopment Plan for downtown, does recognize our cultural assets and the arts and those types of facilities as an important driver for our economic engine and the importance to the redevelopment of downtown. We were able to invest in our COVID retrofit grant because of the ability to invest in some of these facilities. So and Morris and I talked about how to move forward from here and what next steps are. So yes, we legally can do this with the CRA dollars. Our next steps, one of the comments was to have the same kind of agreement as the CRAs have done in the past. We have not done an agreement like this in the past. So one of the next steps would be for our legal department and Morris and Brian to work with the Straz and with their staff and core team to look at first their full budget, so that we can develop criteria. All of our past agreements that we've done have been for public right-of-way infrastructure in our right-of-way. So we have not, the Tampa Bay History Center, the Tampa Theater, the aquarium, we're not investing in those buildings directly like they're asking for this one. So we have not had that kind of agreement with the CRA before, but we will certainly spend 2021 so that we're ready for that FY22 budget to be able to have that agreement in place by the time the funding is ready.
I know certain councilmen will probably want to put a motion forward to approve this, but I would hope that we wait till we get the general information back from Ms. Van Loan to see if we can move forward with this before the motion to do it. That would be my wish, to know exactly where we at in the process with the Straz, to understand how it needs to work to be able to do this. I'm for the arts. But I'm also want to make sure that we can be financially responsible to make sure that we have it to do it. I don't want to say do something and then now we come back, we can't do it. We got to go suck some money from someplace else that may need things done. Again, my thing is making sure that we have it to do it. I think that's the key right now. When things are going on with COVID and the economy may come when, and it's like they may have to halt their projects, so we don't want to do that. So I want to make sure that we're sound with it, number one, and two, making sure we do that, even Mr. Cross made a point. Everyone likes the arts and making sure that when we have programs that come to the STRAS, that they're programming for all cultures all over the city. It's important to have that when you're making this kind of investment, that everyone is inclusive of going to the STRAS and everyone can be able to partake in shows and, of different cultures, different magnitudes. I know they've done some things, but I think when you're putting this type of investment, and from what I see on the project that you're going to be making, this is a huge project that is going to have a lot of activities. So we want to make sure that we're inclusive to all communities and everybody when we do a project like this, especially if we're going to spend taxpayers' dollars, this magnitude of taxpayer dollars over this amount of years. That would just be my request. But again, I'll listen to the account. Mr. James, you recognized.
Is there anybody else? Ms. Maniscalco?
Real quick, Mr. Sure, I received your phone call yesterday. I called you back, but I didn't leave a message. I just want you to know I didn't ignore it, so now you know.
Thank you.
That's it.
I think Mr. Morris had a...
Mr. Chair, if I...
Let me get Mr. Magic, because he wanted to say something. Then I'll
You got
go
it.
to John, then I'll go to you, to Citro.
Go to Citro first, I'll finish up.
All right, sir.
Just quickly, to repeat a little bit what Ms. Van Loan was saying, if the motion is passed by the CRA board that we work with the STRAS on an agreement, this would be a complicated agreement. And one of the things, typically the way we have funded or assisted private development, and I'll give you a more simple example that you all are very familiar with, are facade grants. And when we give money for facade grants, one of the things we want to do, or what we see, is we look at the whole overall budget for that project, make sure that they've got the money there to do the complete project, and we're funding approximately 50%, up to 50% of that work. It's somewhat a similar idea here. I think, our participation in public assistance in this, yes, the Cultural Arts District is a key component of the downtown community redevelopment plan. This is a city-owned facility. There's a lot of things that tie into the Redevelopment Act, so I do think it can be supported by both the Act and by the Downtown Community Redevelopment Plan. So I think legally we can work with the STRAS on such a project, but we will want to make sure we structure it in such a way that the public dollars are used in a manner that it's appropriate and we're not getting ahead or pre-funding things. It really, the private side needs to come in and also be participatory, and we need to make, that's some of the details we're going to have to work out in this type of agreement. So anyway.
Can I just respond to that very quickly?
Sure.
Go ahead, sir.
That is exactly what our intent is, that we would not look to spend the money today before we've finished our campaign, but that the commitment would be there once we are successful with our campaign.
Mr. Citro, you recognize, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. If this city is going to invest in professional sports, we need to seriously consider investing in the culture that is with the city. And if anything else, Ms. Lisi put it exactly correctly. This is an economic driver within this CRA, and we are there to help the economic impact of these CRAs. I will be for this, but I do agree with you, Mr. Chair. Let's hear the study and then move on from there. And Ms. Lisi, please, I saw a picture in there that reminded me of the Parks and Recreation, what I call the Baby Tutus recital, and I cannot wait to see those again. So, Mr. Chair, I agree with you on the, let's look at the directions that we're going to go.
Mr. Chair. John, I have a small comment. Do you want me to go before or after you?
You have a comment? No, that's fine. I wanted to make the motion. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted, based on what Chair Good said, Judy or David, could you please just address what you do, especially in Patel, in regard to scholarships and school outings and things like that? Like what, the broad participation of the community, regardless of income and other attributes.
Absolutely, Councilman. We have one of the largest education outreach programs in the country. We have 52 partnerships throughout the county in schools and in agencies. And every young person who applies to the conservatory who wants to study there will be scholarship. We raise at least $500,000 to $1 million a year to scholarship. And I will tell you, some of these young people have gone on to do amazing things. It was their bridge to get them to where they needed to go. And very often it's our 52 partnerships in the community that we learn about the talent that's out there, and we're able to bring them then into the conservatory for their pre-professional training.
Thank you.
And we bring 50,000 young people a year to our to all of our other live performances as well through Hillsborough County Schools.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you, Judith, and all of your staff, the board members, and I'm honored to serve with you on the board, led by Gary Sasso, and everybody does a great job. David, thanks for all your work over the years. Bill, I appreciate you asked that really important question, because the Strauss doesn't just sit there statically on the river, catering, to the crowd that comes to it. The Strauss, and I think Judith mentioned, does a huge amount of outreach to the community, both in terms of scholarships and programming, et cetera. And I think that's really, really important, Mr. Chairman, and I'm glad you brought that up. I did want to stress, and this goes to Ms. Van Loan's comment, over in the SPP Vinnick project, the CRA has invested and is continuing to invest a lot of money in the city-owned asset of the street. In this case, and a lot of people don't even realize it because the Strauss folks do such a good job of maintaining the property, but they are merely a tenant, a 100-year tenant in a city-owned building. If I'm not mistaken, Mr. Massa is correct.
I believe that's correct.
And so I really see it as pretty similar. This is a city-owned asset for the last 30 plus years. The city contributes periodically, but not a whole lot, but the Strauss folks raised, $30 million to do maintenance and upgrades over the years. They're the kind of tenant that every landlord would like to have. But, the time comes periodically when the landlord needs to kick in and do some help do some major improvements. And Mr. Schur has pointed out that this is very much a private-public partnership. On the public side, I believe eventually they'll probably be circling back to the county as well as the state, and maybe even the feds, we hope, to get some additional funding for this total, $80 million project. But the city being the landlord, being the owner of the property, I feel totally comfortable, that we would kick in as long as, Mr. Chairman, it's financially prudent. And also, I think we have to recognize that it's not necessarily taxes that are coming from other parts of the city to subsidize downtown. It's the downtown taxes that are being kept within the downtown to subsidize these downtown improvements. So anyway, with all that said, Mr. Chairman, I agree with you totally. We take this in baby steps. And the first thing by motion, what I'd like to do is direct our legal and CRA staff to work with the Strauss folks and their attorneys and representatives to investigate this, to look on our own side in terms of, what our budgets look like for the next 5 years, and also to begin working with the Strauss representatives to merely draft, not approve today, but merely draft some type of funding agreement and whatever documents, go with that. And I don't know what sort of time, Mr. Massey, Ms. Van Loon, you would like to come back on that, or if David, I don't know if you guys have a timetable as well.
Right, obviously, we'd like to get stuff done as quickly as possible because once we have this agreement in place, we can really push to our other sources of funding since it's a partnership. But I like the motion. I think that it gives us impetus. It opens the door for us to look at all the things that come up in an agreement. And Mr. Massey's right. It's in the details and getting everything sorted out. And we as an organization will put the time and drop everything else to make this happen.
Mr. Massey, as you have a timetable on my motion?
It's difficult to tell you exactly, but we could give you regular reports if you would like monthly where we are on the negotiations with the STRAS.
I think that sounds appropriate. It will be an evolving process and evolving documents. So my motion would stand, directing legal and staff to work with the STRAS folks and explore this issue, start developing the various agreements necessary, and report back to us monthly.
Have a motion for Mr. Dingfelder.
I have the second.
Ms. Maniscalco is second. Madam Clerk, I think we can call a roll on this one here.
Vieira. Maniscalco.
Yes.
Dingfelder.
Enthusiastically, yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
Citro.
Yes.
Miranda. And Goods.
Yes.
Motion carried with Vieira being absent at vote and Miranda being absent.
Mr. Chair, can I ask something?
You're recognized.
Ms. Van Loon, just for the public that's watching, I know we go through the budgets, but in case somebody's watching for the first time, can you give everyone just a general idea? I won't hold you to the exact number, but a general idea as to what the budget will be in the downtown CRA over the next 5 years, or maybe especially what it would be in the fifth year as compared to $5 million.
Generally, we work on, sorry, I didn't bring the planning budget with me. We work on 5%. We assume a 5% increase each year over there because of some of our buildings that are coming online over the next couple of years, a lot of the developments that are coming online. We had increased that by, I believe, about $1 million a year for 3 years on top of that 5%. So as you look at the 5, you would add each year one additional on top of that 6, 7, 8, in addition to the 5% that as a standard the budget office uses in the planning budget until we get each year's actual revenue. So looking out at about 4 years, I would expect that to be at least to the 9, 10 million. But I'd have to go back to the planning budget, and I don't have
And there are
that
certain
with me.
commitments that have already been made, but the point is that it's not like STRAS is taking all the money. There will be other money for other projects. And as I said in the beginning, if I had my choice, I would put a cap on this and I'd move this money to other areas that desperately need it. But unless we do that, I think we need to spend it on something that's going to be an important economic engine and benefits the people throughout the city. And there are more. I know after this, we're going to get lots of calls from people who also want projects. But the arts have been underfunded, and defunded in the last 10 years. And I think it's important for us to support them. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right. We thank you, folks, and we're going to move on to item number 4.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Believe me, we will do such a great job for this city. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Lisi.
And if I could ask the STRAS folks to stay on the line, as
Okay.
number 5 will be your cultural assets
All
COVID
right.
grant that will be coming up in 2 items.
Ms. Lisi, if you stay on the line, please.
You want me?
Yes, we'll just
Yes,
stay on
sir.
the line.
Yes.
Ms. Vallone, let's go ahead, if you don't mind. Let's go ahead and go, she's on the line. Let's go ahead and do number 5, and we'll come back to 4.
Number 5 is your brand-new cultural assets retrofit grant for COVID-related items. and the cultural assets that do sit on City of Tampa property in the downtown and Channel District area. We did receive 2 grants since we approved this grant program in December, and the first one is the STRAS. They did receive $500,000 from CARES funding to help them address most of the HVAC improvements that are needed in order to address air quality and fresh air within the building. And part of this grant that is requested for $677,737 would address their priorities to complete the HVAC work and then also create touchless systems when their public does come back into the building, such as in your restrooms, touchless doors, touchless fixtures, water fountains, and any interfaces with the public so that you can limit and reduce multiple people touching various items throughout the facility. So their request is $677 and change for this project.
Motion approved.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Motion for Mr. Citro, second by Mr. Dingfelder. Any discussion?
Just
Mr. Carlson, you recognize.
Just, again, for the public, Strata Center is coming up twice here, but if you happen to have heard Ms. Leesy's presentation a few months ago, sorry if I don't remember the numbers exactly right. I think because of COVID and because they're shut down, they're losing $8 to $10 million or more in operating expenses, and we as CRA cannot fund that, but we can help with physical infrastructure related to disease. That's in the statute. And in particular, as you just described, these are physical changes to make the facility safer so that when people can go back, they don't have to touch things and it'll make it safer. And as Mr. Dingfelder said, it is a city-owned facility. And so I think it's a good idea to approve this. Thank you.
Anyone else for discussion?
Vieira. Felder.
Yes.
Maniscalco.
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
Citro.
Yes.
Motion. Being absent. Absent.
Thank you, Ms. Lisa.
So much for all your work.
Thank you. Item number
Number 4 is an retrofit COVID grant theater. Their total project just for the HVAC system is $612,000. They did receive $228,000 and change from the CARES Act, and so they were requesting the balance of $383,598, again, to help purify and clean the air and add more fresh air into the building when the public is again using the building.
motion moves resolution.
Move the resolution.
Second. Mr. Citro, Scalco. Any discussion?
Vieira.
Yeah, I want to add that I'm thrilled that we're able to help another city-owned facility in regard to the Tampa Theater. I think, Mr. Maniscalco, you're on that board, and I know they do great work over there, so thank you.
Maniscalco.
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
Citro.
And Mr. Chair, I'm going to vote yes, but I cannot wait for another historic building and a cultural building to open back up after this pandemic ceases. Thank you very much. Yes, Mr. Chair.
Miranda and Gould.
Yes.
Motion carried with Vieira being absent at vote and Miranda being absent.
Could I say one thing?
Mr. Carlson, you recognize.
Just to add to that, the Tampa Theater is one of the few remaining theaters like that in the country. It's a facility that we all take pride in. It literally is a symbol of Tampa. It's a place that has the arts, their training programs for kids. My kids have participated in video making programs. Every kid wants to be a YouTuber now, and they have all kinds of programs like that when they're open. Tampa Theater, among the other arts groups in downtown, is an economic engine for sure. It adds to the creative industries, but it also has serious capital needs, and their budget was cut over the last 10 years severely. And I hope that they come back to us similar to the Strata Center with capital improvements, because we need to once and for all protect and support that institution. They did a great job on their entranceway and with the seats and other things, restoring the historic look and feel. But the major part of the theater that we all love is really in danger, and we need to make sure that we protect it. Thank you.
Item number 6.
I'll address that, Chair. This is a revision to your emergency rules of procedure to recognize that next month you all will be meeting back at City Council chambers, And so it's clarifying that we are taking comments via voicemail. That wasn't clarified in the last edition of this. And also encouraging folks to participate virtually, given the size of the city council chambers, and making them aware of that they do want to come to city council, to City Hall for the meeting. There will be facilities available on the second floor for them to participate. So that's the purpose of the item number 6, is to amend your emergency rules of procedure while we're having these hybrid meetings.
Thank you, sir. Anyone move the resolution?
I'll move the resolution.
Ms. Citrus, move the resolution.
Second.
Second by Mr. Maniscalco. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Viera, Dingfelder,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Citro,
Yes.
Miranda, and Goode.
Yes.
Motion carried with Viera being absent at vote and Miranda being absent.
Item number 7 is a resolution, but it also has to substitute.
Yes, sir, and let me briefly address that, and I believe representatives from the Tampa Allen Hotel Inc. are also here, and they may want to address the CRA board briefly. You all will recall this summer, a motion was made by the CRA board after much discussion about Herman Massey Park. The concern that the Tampa Allen Hotel folks expressed with the design that had been approved by the Parks Department for the renovation of that park would have located a dog park next to their property, and they're looking to renovate that building, perhaps providing access to the park, and maybe incorporating and coming into some potential future arrangement with the city relative to that. And so you all were supporting an effort to redesign the park and to look at moving the dog park to another area within that relatively small park. But the reason was estimated to cost about $85,000 by the city staff. The Tampa Allen Hotel folks have funded approximately half. There'll be a cashier's check for $3,160 to help fund the redesign. This agreement addresses that. It sets forth a procedure for the redesign to move forward, that they are make sure that they're included in discussions regarding the effort, that they get a copy of the proposed redesign of the park, move the dog park. It allows them to, a director, to see if that get resolved at the administrative level. That cannot be resolved at the administrative level because they're used, and for the right for the possible construction park, it would come back to the CRA information. So that's what's going on.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Mr. Massey. My question is twofold, and I can't remember where I saw this on here on the document I was reading this morning, but it mentions about coming back to the CRA, but I didn't see where it mentioned about coming to the CAC. As a matter of fact, I don't necessarily see the CAC.
Well, I think the CAC would be involved in the whole design effort. It does, and the whole, as I understand the way the whole design effort moves forward, the funding of the park, the redesign effort, and the CRA's participation in the improvements to the park, I think has already gone to the CAC. So the CAC has already, I think, philosophically endorsed it. But, you know, as I understand the way this effort is done by the Parks Department, they have a neighborhood meeting where they invite everyone who is in that geographic area, which would include members of the CAC, to participate in and review the design plans and give their input into how they would like to see the park redesigned and reconfigured. I believe that that as part of the design effort, the CAC would also be consulted and be part of that process before the design is formally approved and it moves forward for construction drawings. What we have here, I'm just trying to get us out of the design phase. What we have here is a design that has was approved, there is actually construction drawings that have been already prepared. So, you know, everyone was ready to move forward with Herman Massey Park redesign with the dog park close to the Tampa Allen Hotel property. Because of the concerns expressed by the Tampa Allen Hotel folks, what we're doing is we're moving back to basically square one and looking and asking our consultant to redesign the park specifically to try to move the dog park elsewhere within the park so it's not abutting the Tampa Allen Hotel property. And then you know, the construction of it would be, I would assume, would go back to the CAC for approval, and obviously construction contract with the funding coming from the CRA, that funding would have to be approved by this board.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, and I don't want to, you know, have us rewrite this contract at the last minute, but with Mr. Massey and Ms. Van Loan's assurances that the CAC, as Mr. Citro often points out, that this is a bottom-up organization and the CAC needs to be deeply involved in this, as well as, you know, some of those buildings that are directly impacted. So I'm sure, Ms. Van Loan, you and your staff will make sure that that happens with the consultant, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then the last question I had was down on page 3 at the bottom under 3D.
Yeah.
And Mr. Massey and I have discussed this briefly. So basically, if the consultant concludes that there's an alternative plan, and then he would present that alternative plan, and then it goes on to say the city will proceed to make improvements consistent with the modified plan. And I assume that when it says the city, it also implicitly means the CRA would fund it as modified. Is that the intent, Mr. Massey?
I mean, the intent was to try to get us out of the design phase process, but the construction contract has to, I mean, the construction money for this project will have to be approved as part of your budget and be approved by this board. So if you all still have concerns with the design after the design effort, then, you know, there would be a stopgap there if that's your concern.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anything else on Mr. Massey, Ms. Van Loan? Question move item number 7, resolution and the substitute item.
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Mr. Maniscalco, second by Mr. Citro. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Viera,
Yes.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Citro,
Yes.
Miranda, and Goose.
Yes.
Motion carried with Miranda being absent.
All right, item number 8 was removed. We'll go to item number 9.
Items number 9 through 14 are your annual appointments and reappointments to the various CACs. This will cover most. As you notice in your memos, it does say we will still have remaining openings as some of the ex officio groups and the community groups within our CRAs change who they are, the representatives are, and some of our at-large members have expired after two-year terms, and so we are still soliciting, and we will come back to you in February with more appointments to more fully fill out the full complement of CAC members. So your first one for number 9 is to reappoint 2 members to the downtown CAC.
Mr. Chairman, can we move from Mr. Massey, can we move 9 through 14 as one?
I believe if there's no issues with them, I think you could do a motion if you wanted to. Go ahead and move them all at one time.
I'll second that.
Unless there's any objection or anybody has any questions.
All right. I have a motion by Mr. Maniscalco to move items number 9 through 14.
Second.
Second by Mr. Dingfelder. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Viera,
Yes.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Citro,
Yes.
Miranda, and Goose.
Yes.
Motion carried with Miranda being absent.
All right. We're down to information reports and new business. Mr. Vieira.
Nothing, sir.
Mr. Maniscalco.
Nothing.
Mr. Dingfelder.
Did we vote on number 8?
Number 8 was removed, sir.
I'm sorry?
Number 8
It was struck.
removed.
It was
Yes.
stricken?
Yes.
Yes,
Stricken.
you actually approved that in December.
Okay.
So-
Nothing. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Carlson.
Just quickly, 2 things, one per your suggestion. I'd like to make a motion to ask the CRA staff to ask each CAC to come back with their top choice for a recommended area that would be included in a neighborhood commercial district study. Understanding that these might not happen right away, but at least we will have feedback from the CACs as to where they think the top priority would be for their district.
Have a motion on the floor by Mr. Carlson.
Clarify the motion, I'm sorry.
That we would, you remember earlier I was talking about the neighborhood commercial district plans that we had supported a year and a half ago. Now 2 of them are underway, one in West Tampa, one in South Tampa. CRA board only has jurisdiction over the CRA districts, and so we can't affect areas that are outside that district in this form. So what I would suggest is that we ask staff to ask the CACs, each CAC, what their top recommendation would be for an area that would be included in a neighborhood commercial district plan.
So we still would have to address New Tampa or North Tampa?
Yeah.
As a city item, I guess, instead of a CRA item.
Yeah, and then any other place in South Tampa too.
Correct, okay. Second.
Second by motion was on the floor by Mr. Carlson, second by Mr. Dingfelder. Any more discussion? Roll call vote.
Viera,
Yes.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Citro,
Yes.
Miranda, and Goods.
Yes.
Motion carried with Miranda being absent.
The second thing is, a year and a half ago, before Ms. Van Loan moved up into this position, we voted to create a strategic plan for the CRA, not the CACs or the districts, but the CRA, and we never finished that. And I guess I would like to make a motion that we ask staff to finish that process. And the reason is that think about because of the way we set up because of the law and the way we set up the CRA, we as the board have power and responsibility now for the CRA districts, and we don't have any document or guidelines for Michelle and her staff to follow. She has the plans from the individual CACs, but she doesn't have any plan for us. There's no way for us to objectively measure her success or her staff's success. And I think we need to finish that process so that we can get a consensus about how we view the CRA district or the CRA overall. So the motion is that we ask staff to continue with and finish the CRA planning process.
Motion on the floor by Mr. Carlson. Have a second.
Second.
Can we modify that bill slightly to ask Michelle to come back and report to us about what's involved in that, how much it costs, what the scope of that would be, et cetera? I mean, because typically, like, I know for East Tampa, we had to pay a couple $100,000 for the outside consultant to do that.
Yeah, that's a good point, and probably it should be an outside consultant. Michelle she has expertise in doing it. She was doing it herself last time, but now she has more responsibility and may want to outsource it. So I'll modify my motion to say that we would ask staff to look into finishing the CRA planning process and to report back to us on what steps or budget we need to complete that.
Second.
Do we need to set a date? Maybe is the next CRA meeting okay, or 2 CRA meetings?
Alone, because January, our current meeting is so late in the month, and we meet in 3 weeks for the
March.
February, I would request that it be March.
Okay, so in the March meeting, please.
Second.
CRA meeting, will be March 11th?
Yes, sir.
March 11th. Motion on the floor by Mr. Carlson for March 11th, update from Ms. Van Loan. I think it was second by Mr. Dingfelder. Any more discussion? Roll call vote.
Viera,
Yes.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Citro,
Yes.
Miranda, and Goods.
Yes.
Motion carried with Miranda being absent.
That's all I
Anything
Thank
else?
you, sir.
Mr. Citro.
Nothing today. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, gentlemen. I just have one item. Ms. Van Loan, I've received, and I should have mentioned to you this on Tuesday at our agenda review, I've received phone calls from some of the East Tampa board members in reference to, I guess, not knowing previous things that are on the way to be done in East Tampa that have already been approved before, what items that are in the pipeline, and I feel there's no clear understanding. I know I was having to walk into that last meeting, and I heard some questions about some things that I think were some things that were already approved, but some of the members didn't know they were approved. I would ask that you get on the next agenda the past chair, and maybe can come in and update the new chair and the board of the previous items that have been moved on and passed, so they're aware of what's in the pipeline versus not knowing what's going on or what the staff is already doing. I think when you get and I hear that from a lot of CACs, when you get a new board, and especially these type of lay boards, I think it's good that it should be a transition meeting. That way they know what's going on. Because if Bristol has a whole new board over there. So really, they don't really know about CA. They're trying to figure out what's going on, how it works, how it operates. And I really think it needs to eventually, Mr. Carlos, I'm glad you said that, in a strategic plan, if this happens, to make sure that we have an educational portion, because I sat on the CAC before, and I see how slimmed down the educational portion is of knowing about the CAC and what their roles are and what they can do, what they can't do. So I think eventually we've got to have some type of, when you get in a new body come in, especially lay boards, there needs to be kind of transition period that the new chair, old chair, or sit down so they know what is going on, so no one's in awe of, I didn't know that, I don't know this. So I think that needs to happen in the future, but definitely right now for East Tampa, I think that we need to have the past chair go in, give a small presentation of what was done in previous, what is in the pipeline, so people can be updated. I think that's appropriate to do. And I'd like to get that done at your next meeting if possible, if the past chair is available, or whenever she can become available.
We will reach out to her.
Thank you. Anything else, gentlemen? Again, I thank you. Great meeting today for our first meeting back.
Can I get a motion to receive and file all
So moved.
documents?
Second. Motion received by Mr. Maniscalco, second by Mr. Citro. All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.